안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 잠시 후 1시 30분부터 제8차 아세안 연계성 포럼이 시작될 예정입니다. 청취자분들께서는 화면 앞으로 자리하여 주시면 감사하겠습니다. Ladies and gentlemen, the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum will begin at 1:30. We kindly ask for your attention to the screen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you all to the opening ceremony of the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum on Live, organized by the ASEAN-Korea Center and supported by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, the Construction Association of Korea, and the ASEAN Secretariat. My name is Park Ji-yeon from the ASEAN-Korea Center, and it is my great pleasure to carry on today's meaningful event under the theme of ASEAN-Korea Partnership for Enhancing ASEAN Connectivity in the Post-COVID-19 Era. The ASEAN-Korea Center has been organizing the ASEAN Connectivity Forum since 2013 in efforts to support the ASEAN connectivity initiatives and the strategic areas of the Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025. We express our sincere appreciation to all the ASEAN ambassadors to the Republic of Korea and all the online participants from ASEAN and Korea for joining us this afternoon. Now, let us begin by inviting His Excellency Lee Hyuk, Secretary General of the ASEAN-Korea Center, for the opening remarks. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
His Excellency Choi Jong-mun, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, Her Excellency Romane Kananurak, Ambassador of the Royal Kingdom of Thailand to the RAC and the Chair of ASEAN Committee in Seoul, Her Excellency Maria Catarina Cabral, Undersecretary of Department of Public Works and Highways of the Philippines, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. I would like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, Construction Association of Korea, and ASEAN Secretariat for their heartfelt support and unwavering commitment to making today's event possible and successful. I also want to thank our distinguished speakers and panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules. I had wished for this forum to be an opportunity to see and talk with you in person, just like our former gatherings, which is why we had postponed the date of this forum. Unfortunately, it seems that we are still stuck in this pandemic, although the recent rollout of vaccines in various parts of the world leads us to hope that the end of the virus days are nearing. But for now, we will need to maintain physical distancing. Hence, this year, the ASEAN Connectivity Forum, one of our center's flagship programs, is being held online for the first time. While our partners and viewers are not here physically, we are most pleased to welcome everyone online. I look forward to everyone's active participation and engagement, and hope you will make the most of this 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. The year 2020 was indeed a time of unprecedented challenges, disruptions, and plights. The World Bank expected the global economy in the year 2020 to contract by 4.3%, while the Asia Development Bank also forecasted the ASEAN economy to shrink by 3.8%, marking the worst economic crisis in decades. At the same time, the pandemic has given the ASEAN region an opportunity to strengthen solidarity and partnership. The ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework, adopted during the 37th ASEAN Summit in last November, is one of the prime examples of the region's coordinated actions and commitment to build back better. Amongst all, we must take note that connectivity and digitalization play an important role in bolstering the region's rebuilding and recovery efforts. Since the adoption of the first Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2010 and the subsequent MPAC 2025, connectivity has been recognized as one of the key strategies to enhance the region's integration. The midterm review of the MPAC 2025 adopted at the 37th ASEAN Summit last year emphasized the crucial role of connectivity to strengthen resilience in dealing with future pandemics. Distinguished guests and viewers, in light of the nature of this pandemic, to which not a single country in the world is immune, enhanced global and regional cooperation is needed more than ever. At this critical juncture, ASEAN and Korea have so much to do together, and not only in fighting the coronavirus, but also in seeking new opportunities for mutual growth in the post-pandemic era. In that connection, I think the new Southern Policy Plus strategy, a follow-up on the new Southern policy of the Korean government, will prove very successful in expanding the horizon for partnership between ASEAN and Korea. And to further enhance ASEAN-Korea partnership during the challenging times, the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum will highlight some of the new opportunities for smart, green, and sustainable infrastructure development in areas of transport, energy, and smart cities in the ASEAN region. In session 1, experts from International Finance Corporation Korea, Japanese Embassy in Korea, Korea Overseas Infrastructure and Urban Development Corporation, and Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia will discuss ways to facilitate ASEAN connectivity and enhance ASEAN-Korea partnership in the post-COVID-19 era. Later, in session 2, officials of ASEAN member states will provide information on upcoming national and cross-border transport, energy, and smart cities projects. I hope the discussions and presentations will be helpful in encouraging active engagement by Korean businesses in ASEAN connectivity projects, stimulate sustainable infrastructure building, and initiative in digital innovation. Before closing, I would like to stress once again the importance of collective efforts among countries in enhancing ASEAN connectivity. To promote cooperation among dialogue partners in this regard, last year we invited U.S. Ambassador Harry Harris to the 7th ASEAN Connectivity Forum as a keynote speaker. This year, we are pleased to have Mr. Tanaka Kazumasa, Economic Counsellor at the Japanese Embassy, in our panel discussion. I hope these efforts will lead to deeper cooperation among Korea, US, Japan, and other dialogue partners as we further our partnership with ASEAN. looking forward to widespread distribution of vaccines and a world free of the pandemics in the near future. I hope this year's forum will be both meaningful and fruitful. Finally, I wish every success in all the ongoing recovery efforts and good health to all our participants and viewers. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Thank you. Next, please welcome Her Excellency Romani Kananurak, Ambassador of the Royal Kingdom of Thailand to the Republic of Korea and Chair of ASEAN Committee in Seoul, for her congratulatory remarks. Please give her a big hand.
His Excellency Ji-yeon, Secretary General of the ASEAN-Korea Center, His Excellency Choi Jong-moon, Second Vice Minister of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to be here at the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. On behalf of the ASEAN embassies, and in my current capacity as chair of the ASEAN Committee in Seoul, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the ASEAN Korea Center for hosting this forum, as well as to the ASEAN Secretariat, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Construction Association of Korea for supporting this forum. In the past year, COVID-19 has created unprecedented challenges for all of us. In this, it has disconnected our economies and society with travel restriction and barriers in our supply chains. However, while this pandemic has caused far-reaching devastation, it has also served as a catalyst for rapid transformation in the era of digital connectivity. Therefore, we should turn this crisis into an opportunity by strengthening cooperation between ASEAN and the ROC to enhance connectivity in the region. In order to mitigate the impacts from COVID-19 and enhance our resilience in withstanding future pandemics and global economic disruptions. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, the ROC has emerged as a forerunner in the region when it comes to effective management of COVID-19. A huge part of this can be attributed to the ROC's constructive uses of technology in its preemptive testing and tracing processes. In addition to healthcare and crisis management, the ROC's technological advancements is also apparent across other sectors of development, whether it be sustainable infrastructure, e-commerce, and of course, transportation, energy, and smart cities, the latter three of which will be addressed in the presentation later today. Against this backdrop, I believe there is great potential for cooperation between us in these areas. ASEAN and the ROC have both managed to control the spread of COVID-19 at a relatively satisfactory rate compared to other parts of the world. We should build on this strength and focus on securing quick recovery from the pandemic by enhancing our cooperation on connectivity, including soft and hard infrastructure and people-to-people connectivity. I'm pleased that in November of last year, RCEP was finally signed. Its early implementation will help preserve free and open trade systems, which is the foundation of all economic activity in the region. To achieve our goal of enabling the flow of people, goods, and services, we should also prioritize facilitating essential business travel among ASEAN and the ROC through establishing fast-track or travel corridor arrangements. As ASEAN and the ROC are both key players in the regional supply chain, I believe reconnecting our peoples and economies can help strengthen the region's competitiveness as a whole. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the ROC for its contribution under the Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025, or MPAC 25, and wish to see increased cooperation from the ROC in areas with the ROC process expertise in, such as digital innovation, which is one of the 5th strategic area of MPAC. In November of last year, President Moon announced the new Southern Policy Plus strategy at the 21st ASEAN-ROK Summit. The new Southern Policy Plus outlines 7 key areas of cooperation, including healthcare and rural community and smart city development, which are all significant areas in our COVID-19 recovery efforts. Furthermore, the Korean New Deal policy, which include the Digital New Deal and Green New Deal, can also serve as a framework for cooperation between the ROK and the ROC in the area of digital connectivity and sustainable infrastructure development. In this connection, we could increase our cooperation on smart infrastructure and green development through the ASEAN Catalytic Green Finance Facility. Furthermore, we should enhance our cooperation on smart cities, for which we have laid the groundwork at the commemorative summit in Busan. This can be done both through bilateral cooperation projects as well as through the ASEAN Smart Cities Network, in which the ROC has been an active collaborator. As for Thailand, we are pleased to have ongoing cooperation with the ROC on the development of smart city in Phuket and Khon Kaen provinces. On our part, we will continue to support ways to enhance connectivity. On 22nd January, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand, in cooperation with the World Bank Thailand, will organize an online seminar titled Connecting the Connectivities, Synergy through Enhanced Partnership, as a platform for discussion between ASEAN and the ASEAN dialogue partners, including the ROC, to identify linkages between MPAC 2025 and other connectivity initiatives in the region, and to promote concrete cooperation on connectivity. Interested participants may watch the seminar live at www.ctcseminar2021.com. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere hope that the forum today will serve as a concrete platform for stakeholders in ASEAN and ROK to build a network with a shared goal of enhancing connectivity in the region. I also hope that this forum will continue the momentum of economic cooperation between us, building on the success of 2019 ASEAN-ROK Commemorative Summit, and pave the way towards concrete corporate outcomes under the new Southern Policy Plus. Lastly, I would like to once again thank the ASEAN-Korea Center for its continued effort to promote closer cooperation between ASEAN and the Republic of Korea. I wish this forum every success. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Thank you. Last but not least, I would like to invite His Excellency Choi Jong-moon, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, to deliver his special remarks. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
So, Your Excellency Lee Hyuk, Secretary General of the ASEAN-Korea Center, and Your Excellency Romani Kananrak, Ambassador of Thailand to Korea, Excellencies and distinguished guests, I'd like to congratulate the ASEAN-Korea Center for hosting the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum and thank the Construction Association of Korea for sponsoring this meaningful event. I also welcome all participants joining us online and offline. So indeed, COVID-19 has touched virtually all aspects of our lives. In particular, the most profound change has been on ways we connect and interact with each other. People-to-people exchanges has sharply dropped. The digital divide has become even more widened, and global supply chains have been severely disrupted. If we are pressed to find any upside to the immense pain and damage that the pandemic has brought, it would perhaps be that we no longer take connectivity for granted. We are starting to recognize and appreciate connectivity as a public good, one that is key for rebuilding our communities both economically and socially. These points make today's event most timely and relevant. Since the inception of the ASEAN Connectivity Forum, it has continued to play a vital role as a platform to bolster Korea-ASEAN cooperation in promoting connectivity in the region. For the past 8 years, this forum has been a venue for robust exchange of ideas on infrastructure projects and strengthening public-private partnership. It has also created opportunities for entrepreneurs in various fields to bring our region closer, thus deepening Korea-ASEAN partnership. So, Excellencies, distinguished guests, from the onset of COVID-19, Korea and ASEAN have firmly stood in solidarity to tackle the pandemic and mitigate its negative socio-economic impacts. The new Southern Policy Plus, which was put forward by President Moon Jae-in at the 21st ASEAN-ROK Summit in November last year, is to refine the new Southern policy, taking into account the changing environment and needs of our ASEAN partners. The new Southern Policy Plus is a strong commitment by the Korean government to continue to deepen and advance its cooperation with ASEAN. The new Southern Policy Plus presents 7 key areas of cooperation that will drive Korea-ASEAN cooperation to a new level. Today, I'd like to highlight 3 areas that are especially salient to today's forum. The first is comprehensive cooperation on public health. COVID-19 made it clear that public health is the very foundation for all aspects of our joint endeavors, including efforts to strengthen connectivity. For instance, a number of infrastructure projects that contribute to enhanced connectivity has experienced varying levels of disruption due to public health concerns. As such, ensuring public health to overcome COVID-19 is the first step to revitalize this project and further strengthen connectivity. Bearing this in mind, Korea is working together with ASEAN to cooperate in the area of public health, including launching the Korea-ASEAN Health Dialogues channel and assisting with the medical supplies and test kits. Furthermore, in order to successfully overcome COVID-19, Korea is fully engaged in the global cooperation for equitable access to vaccines and treatment. The second area of cooperation I wish to emphasize is the initiative on two-way platforms for business and investment. In order to speed up our region's economic recovery, it is vital to keep our market open and enhance the connectivity and the resilience of supply chains. In this context, the importance of promoting an open, inclusive, transparent, and rule-based multilateral trading system has been reaffirmed repeatedly since the outbreak of COVID-19. The recent signing of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP agreement, is a milestone, a symbol of commitment at the highest level to open trade and multilateralism. Another important element for maintaining interconnectedness in the region is to facilitate essential movement of people, in particular those in the business community. The Korean government now has fast-track entry arrangement with several ASEAN countries and will continue to explore ways to facilitate and expand essential travels as they are crucial to our region's economic recovery. My third point is on partnership for future industry. With the outbreak of COVID-19, the transformation to digital economy has been accelerated, and Korea is proactively responding to ever-growing demand for digital connectivity through the Digital New Deal policy. I believe this is a sector that has great potential for Korea and ASEAN collaboration. In this sense, I look forward to the adoption of the ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2025 on the occasion of the ASEAN Digital Ministers Meeting, which will be held in a few days. I am certain that the master plan will provide a useful guidance to lead us toward a digitally connected community powered by secure and transformative digital service and technologies. Korea would like to be a good partner in ASEAN's digital transformation by sharing ideas and know-how to meet a new industrial revolution. I am also encouraged by the tangible outcomes of Korea and ASEAN startup partnerships. Korea will closely cooperate with ASEAN in building the ecosystem for innovative startups so that they can become the engine of regional economic development and connectivity in the non-contact era and the online platforms. Excellencies and distinguished guests, Korea, through the new Southern Policy Plus, will strengthen partnership with ASEAN to enhance connectivity in the region. In this regard, Korea will continue to support the Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity, or MPAC 2025, by taking part in ASEAN's Smart City Network Initiative, as well as infrastructure project. I hope that today's forum will spark new insights and ideas and inspire more connectivity in the region. I wish you all a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister, for your special remarks. Before we move on to the first session, we have prepared a short video from the ASEAN Secretariat to introduce on the Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025, a regional blueprint to support ASEAN's integration. Let's take a look.
ASEAN, a region of opportunities with a young and growing population of more than 620 million people. By connecting ASEAN, we connect these opportunities. Over the past 50 years, ASEAN has shown significant progress and benefits from its regional integration efforts. Its GDP nearly doubled to reach US $2.6 trillion between 2007 and 2016. We can deliver more. The Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025 aims to achieve a seamless, integrated and comprehensively connected ASEAN. This will promote competitiveness, inclusiveness and a greater sense of community. What does that mean for you? The Master Plan will improve the way you live, work and travel. It will enhance the physical infrastructure that brings us together. It will link our institutions to support our cooperation across borders. Through all this, it connects everyone in this region as one community. ASEAN is a vibrant, growing, multicultural region. Our diversity is our strength. To better harness this potential, ASEAN connectivity will bridge the country's individual strengths to make us collectively stronger. ASEAN connectivity will help us better work together on our common challenges. Our region needs a significant increase in infrastructure investments to meet our growing needs. 90 million more people will call our cities home by 2030. Productivity will also need to grow. We also need to cooperate to reach our full potential. Together, we form the third biggest workforce in the world and one of the world's biggest consumer markets. There is huge potential in our digital economy. Our economies are uniquely positioned to benefit further from global trade and investment. ASEAN connectivity will be enhanced through 5 strategic areas. Sustainable infrastructure, increasing investment, improving infrastructure productivity, and building better cities. Digital innovation, supporting adoption of technology, using digital innovations to improve financial access and enhance data sharing and management. Seamless logistics, lowering costs and improving supply chains. Regulatory excellence, providing common frameworks and removing trade barriers. People mobility, enhancing skills and enabling the movement of our most vital resource, the peoples of ASEAN. Through these areas, the master plan provides a framework for everyone to benefit and come closer together. The Master Plan for ASEAN Connectivity 2025, Reaching for a Better Tomorrow by Connecting ASEAN Today.
I hope everyone enjoyed the video. We would also like to invite you all to visit the ASEAN Connectivity microsite, connectivity.asean.org, where you may find thematic communication products to understand more on ASEAN connectivity. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the first session, I would like to kindly inform the online viewers that you may raise questions through the YouTube live chat. There will be a separate Q&A session at the end of the session. We ask for your active participation. Now, let us begin the panel discussion session on the challenges and the direction of future development of ASEAN connectivity in the post-COVID-19 era. There will be 4 presenters followed by Q&A. Ms. Kim Hejin, Head of Information and Data Unit of the ASEAN-Korea Center, will guide us through as the session's moderator. Now, I will leave the floor to Ms. Kim and the discussants. Please welcome them with a big round of applause.
Yes, thank you, Ji-yeon, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone, to session 1 of the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. My name is Hejin Kim, as was introduced. I'm the head of the Information and Data Unit here at the ASEAN-Korea Center. And as was mentioned by our previous speakers during their opening remarks, infrastructure and connectivity projects will become increasingly important in enabling resilience and in stimulating the economy as ASEAN and East Asia, for that matter, embarks on its journey for recovery in the wake of COVID-19. So now I understand we're not quite really out of the woods yet, but as the vaccines are being rolled out, hopefully we'll be able to gain some normalcy, albeit a new normal, by perhaps second or third quarters of this year. So in this context, in this session, we'll be talking about how ASEAN-Korea partnership can contribute to enhancing connectivity in the post-COVID-19 era. So I have 4 panelists joining me today. On my left is Mr. Takane Kazumasa, Economic Counselor at the Embassy of Japan. Next to him is Ms. Ji-yeon, Head of International Financial Corporation, Korea. And then beside her is Mr. Han-kyu, Executive Vice President of Korea Overseas Infrastructure and Urban Development Corporation. And finally, joining us from Jakarta through video conference is Dr. Fauziah. Do we have her online right now joining us? Yes. Senior Economist at the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia. So once again, thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us here today. Now, just a reminder that my very brief introduction of our panelists, due to time constraints, it does not do justice to the wealth of experience and expertise that they bring with them here. So I ask my online viewers to please refer to their bios, which is going to be on our website at a later time. And also a kind reminder, I think Ji already mentioned, but you may raise questions through the YouTube live chat. So please specify to whom you're raising the question, and I will try and deliver that question at the end of the discussions during the Q&A session. So without further ado, let me move on to my first panelist, to my first question. So to Mr. Takane, one of the key words of the recovery efforts is to build back better. We've been hearing a lot about how to build back better after COVID-19. And so the recovery efforts really, they need to be safe, they need to be environmentally conscious, they need to be smart, and of course they need to promote economic growth. And Japan, since 2015, has embarked on an initiative in ASEAN known as Partnership for Quality Infrastructure. So before we move on to talking about ASEAN-Korea partnership, I want to take a moment to look at how Japan's experiences in supporting ASEAN infrastructure development, including how Japan supports MPAC, the Master Plan for ASEAN Connectivity. So what were some of the best practices, and what lessons can we draw from that experience, especially in relation to sustainable and green development? And also some of your thoughts on how Korea and Japan can cooperate maybe in this regard, as was mentioned in our Secretary General's remarks earlier. So Mr. Takane, we have very short time, so if you can limit your presentation to 5 minutes, that would be great. Thank you.
Let me first of all thank you for your introduction. I'd like to talk about Japan's support for ASEAN connectivity quality infrastructure. Since MPAC in 2010, Japan has supported enhancing ASEAN connectivity, mainly through the formation of vital artery for East, West, and Southern economic corridors, and maritime economic corridors, as well as the soft infrastructure projects throughout ASEAN. Japan advocated these frameworks at Japan ASEAN Summit 2011. Formation of vital artery for the East, West, and Southern economic corridor is hard infrastructure development in the Mekong region, connecting the South China Sea and Indian Ocean. These frameworks are assistance to develop the Southern economic corridor between Ho Chi Minh, Phnom Penh, Bangkok, and Dawei, and the East-West economic corridor expanding from Da Nang to Molamang. Improvement of both corridors will enable overall access across the Indian and China Peninsula, bring great benefit to transportation and distribution of goods in the Mekong region. Maritime ASEAN economic corridor is to improve connectivity through the development of port associated industries, energy and ICT in major steel in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Brunei, and the Philippines. ASEAN's wide software infrastructure project are ASEAN Smart Network, trade facilitation, establishing common automotive standards, and support for forming a single aviation market, logistics modernization, and building a sea, land, and modal transportation network. Japan has supported ASEAN effort to strengthen connectivity in order to narrow the gaps in the ASEAN region and further facilitate the integration of the ASEAN community based on MPAC 2025 and ACMEX Master Plan. Japan will continue to provide support in this field. Last year, Japan has announced its decision to support strengthening ASEAN connectivity, both in the hard and soft infrastructure, with focus on the ongoing 2 trillion yen worth of land, sea, and air corridor connectivity project, together with capacity building project for 1,000 individuals over the next 3 years. The land, sea, and air corridors project, connectivity project, which strengthens physical connectivity and will be complemented by the technical cooperation project, which promote institutional and people-to-people connectivity and expect to create synergies. And Japan is promoting quality infrastructure development in accordance with international standards, as endorsed in the G20 principles for quality infrastructure investment, with a view to supporting the sustainable development of the ASEAN community. Quality infrastructure is cost-effective in the long run for resilient, inclusive, and sustainable growth. At the G20 Osaka Summit in 2019, under Japanese leadership, G20 countries, including emerging donors, endorsed the G20 principle for quality infrastructure investment. In cooperation with the international community, Japan will disseminate this principle, which includes elements such as openness, transparency, economic efficiency, and debt sustainability to the entire international community, reflected in the individual project, and implement this principle. Japan intends to promote capacity building for support for implementation of this principle and support sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Finally, I'd like to mention the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific.
Thank you, Mr. Takane. That was a very comprehensive review of Japan's initiatives in ASEAN with regard to connectivity projects. It seems that Japan has a lot of emphasis on a very holistic approach, not just about simply about sustainability, but about transparency in institutional matters, and also on emphasis on technology with regard to capacity building in smart technology as well. But as much as quality is crucial in generating projects that are sustainable and that contribute to the sound economic growth in this ASEAN region, we believe quantity, too, is a huge importance in the ASEAN region, considering that many of these countries are in a developing stage. So back in 2017, the Asia Development Bank, they published a report saying that ASEAN will need an annual investment of $184 billion to meet its infrastructure needs. And this number actually goes up to $200 billion per year if climate mitigation and climate adaptation costs are taken into consideration. I mean, undoubtedly, every country is doing their best to make their recovery efforts as efficient as possible, as quickly as possible. But because of the many economic damages that were caused by COVID-19, I'm sure that many of these governments have very little fiscal space to supply the public funds that are necessary for infrastructure projects, for digital innovation, and especially for cross-border connectivity projects. So here, I would like to direct my second question to Ms. Ji-yeon. How would you, coming from the International Financial Corporation, how would you assess the impact of COVID-19 on infrastructure investments in ASEAN, and what can be done to more effectively finance these projects, that is to kind of maximize the financial options and maybe further stimulate public-private partnerships?
Thank you, Ms. Kim, and it is my great honor to join this panel discussion today. As earlier, Ambassador Lee mentioned that the world economy has contracted by 4.3%, according to the World Bank data. And IMF actually recently suggested that it would be 4.4%. If I just give you the benchmark, during 2008 financial crisis, the world economy contracted by mere 0.1%, and the damage was huge. And as Ms. Kim mentioned, the government debt has now reached at the high record in emerging market. and their fiscal space is limited. So many ASEAN countries are turning their state projects to PPP projects, yet sponsors are concerned about the credit risk of the countries. How can you make the concession more bankable? We believe that this is why we need a private sector investment to address the infrastructure gap in ASEAN countries. Turning into ASEAN, more than 360 million people in Asia lack basic access to the water. 76 million people in the Philippines, Myanmar, and Indonesia do not have access to electricity. And two factors are affecting the infrastructure development in ASEAN countries. One is demographic changes, and the other is rapid urbanization. When it comes to demographic changes, the world will reach 8.5 billion people, which is, and then 60% of the population will be in Asia. And the prediction is that 60% of global infrastructure needs will also be in Asia. So how do we fund those infrastructure projects and make sure that they are sustainable? For IFC, as the largest development finance institutions supporting in private sector in emerging markets, we are also the largest world financiers for climate-related investment. We invest directly in climate-smart sectors such as clean energy, sustainable cities, smart agriculture, energy efficiency, and green buildings and green finance. Since 2005, IFC has provided more than 28 billion in long-term finance for climate-related projects in emerging markets, and we mobilized over 22 billion from other investors. Ever since the start of Green Bond in 2010, IFC surpassed 10 billion of green bond issuances. So how do we actually dramatically accelerate the private sector investment in emerging market or in ASEAN? The liquidity is not an issue. It's about how to create more bankable projects. And to do so, IFC established upstream, we call upstream strategy, basically working with the government and local stakeholders and private sectors to create the right frame for the projects, including PPP, and provide financing to the right place. So in our view is that we need to work on early stage project development. Without it, it's not going to happen. So how do we make the concession bankable? IFC has been advising the government for the past 20 years, over 140 projects. And transaction advisor like IFC can help improve the bankability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yu. I completely agree with you on that. It's in order to attract more private investment, which is very necessary because there is going to be a limit in the public funds, then these projects needs to be bankable. I think we have about 9 projects that are going to be presented today after this session. Many of them, some of the priority projects of that country and some of the connectivity projects, perhaps some of them are also have been sponsored by the multinational international banks such as yours on making them more bankable and making them more attractive private investments. But once again, private investments will be an important element in boosting investment in infrastructure, especially during this recovery period. And in fact, Korea is actually one of the strong investors in ASEAN for over the years, along with Japan as dialogue partners of ASEAN. And in fact, I'll give you some numbers here. Since 2018, ASEAN has been the #1 construction market for Korean companies. The numbers that I have here is that the volume for 2018 was the total value of projects reached $11.9 billion in 2018, and then another $8 billion US dollars in 2019. And also, you may know that President Moon announced a new Southern Policies Plus strategy last year during the ASEAN-Korea Summit. And there too, he announced 7 key areas of cooperation, and infrastructure and smart cities are also included in these in the 7 key areas. So here is my third question to my third panelist, Mr. Han-kyu, who is an expert on overseas infrastructure projects of Korean companies. Ms. Lim, please share your thoughts on how Korean companies can contribute, since you've worked in the field as well, how they can contribute to green and smart infrastructure development and connectivity projects in ASEAN, because that seems to be the new norm now in the post-COVID-19 period. And also, what are some expectations in the business community with regard to this new Southern Policy Plus strategy? Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. First of all, taking this opportunity, I would like to introduce our corporation, KAN, very briefly. KAN, the Korea Overseas Infrastructure and Urban Development Corporation, we were established 2.5 years ago, June 2018. During 2.5 years history, we finally committed 10 projects for the final investment decision. Among them, we have 3 ASEAN countries projects, 2 Vietnamese projects, and 1 Indonesian project. And also, we have many potential projects in developing. And so I hope there will be many new project development in ASEAN countries in the future, especially Indonesia and Vietnam and Philippines and Myanmar, though we have many projects. Very sorry for Madam Ambassador, we have little project opportunities in Thailand. And also we have 2 representative offices in ASEAN countries, 1 in Hanoi and 1 in Jakarta. And we will looking for many business opportunities in those countries and whole the ASEAN region. Back to your question, Ms. Kim. I think the ASEAN, you already mentioned ASEAN becoming the largest construction destination for Korean companies. I think until 2018, the largest market for Korean construction industries were Middle East. Now the ASEAN is the biggest market, and by sector, I think plant engineering is number 1, and civil engineering is number 2. By countries, Indonesia is number 1, and Vietnam is number 2, and Singapore is number 3. And so we have many track records in those countries in most areas and most countries. And also we have great interest in both traditional area of construction and the new trend, including the eco-friendly infrastructure businesses, such as electric car and renewable energy, and also the green mass transportation facilities. That is the focused area from the Korean construction industries. As I already mentioned, that we have the various experience in those countries. We can deliver equipment manufacturing and EPC works and utility operation and so on. And also we can provide the tailor-made total solution to each country's, each business areas. That is our hope, and also that is seriously developed by the Korean companies. And also regarding new Southern Plus policies, Southern Plus strategy, we expect there will be great expansion of business model, such as smart healthcare and smart city with smart infrastructure. And that will be related with the traditional infrastructure, the facilities also. And also, I think there will be many convergence with the various product, the business models, and the financing solutions. And so with our competitiveness of Korean companies, we can deliver key contents and the experience transfer, and we can make some mutual prosperity with the ASEAN countries, I think. And we would like deepen and widen the cooperation with ASEAN countries. I hope so.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned smart infrastructure, smart technology development that will probably feature large, especially after the announcement of the New Southern Policy. And I think Ambassador Romani also mentioned in her remarks about how digital technology cooperation is something that ASEAN countries look forward to, especially in enhancing cooperation with Korea and ASEAN. And in fact, many of the presentations today and later in session 2 are focused on smart city development. So ASEAN did launch an ASEAN Smart City Network initiative back in 2018 and a lot of work on the smart city area. But you also mentioned about Korean companies' contributions to renewable energy. I think one of the presentations later in session 2, Indonesia was focusing on how to boost their proportion of renewable energy use in their energy scheme. So thank you for your presentation in that regard. My last question will be directed to Dr. Zen. Dr. Zen, thank you for your patience being our last panelist. She's joining us online from area in Jakarta. I would like to ask you since you're our last panelist and since you will be kind of representing ASEAN here in this panel, how would you assess the infrastructure needs in the region, which I'm sure is huge coming out of COVID-19, and the way forward for ASEAN to build green, sustainable, and resilient infrastructure? And also, how would you assess the prospects for connectivity projects, just more than just infrastructure projects, but connectivity projects under MPAC 2025? Because I believe some of these projects will have to compete with many of the other in-country projects in ASEAN, and also investment in other areas such as public healthcare and so on in the aftermath of COVID-19. So, Dr. Zen, you have the floor. Is she with us?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and also good afternoon, Your Excellencies, and also distinguished speakers from Jakarta here. I would like to briefly express my views on how we can reconnecting ASEAN, not only ASEAN, but also with East Asia. So, let me briefly start about these key fiscal indicators. We are aware that all economies experience higher budget deficit in 2020, and majority will expect to lower the deficits during 2021 fiscal year, except perhaps Indonesia. And then how the government finance the deficit, usually tap from the debt, foreign debt. Some countries such as Japan and Singapore usually utilize their domestic markets, but for their debts also increase. But majority of Southeast Asian economies have low to moderate debt ratio levels. So we could say that we are still safe in terms of fiscal sustainability. Last year, fiscal stimulus is about 6.5 to 7% of ASEAN GDP. It's a big number. And now we are starting to vaccinate our people. Yeah, but the question is, will vaccines be safer? The economies of, I think, first there are constraints in production capacity, delivery, storage, and also giving the shots in terms of this vaccination. So hence it takes some time until majority of populations get vaccinated. Second, we don't know the protection period now. If it's short, like 3 or less than 6 months, for example, the number of vaccines needed will be higher because the same persons may need twice, yeah, because their protection period already expired. And third, vaccines do not mean that we have full protection, but it only reduces the risk of getting severe illness from COVID-19. So we still need to apply strict COVID-19 health protocols. And fourth, we don't know how this virus will mutate continuously and how it will affect the current efforts. Yeah, the vaccines, the scientists already developed, the lockdown, etc. And next, we have seen different situations in terms of the spread of the infections, the fatality rate, the healthcare readiness, the trend, and the policy across nations. So it's difficult to impose the same policy in the region and globally. Next is also different reopening policy, especially in cross-border policy, the quarantine requirement and the virus checks requirement, etc. So in short, it won't be the same anymore. New normal is not old normal. How restaurants and airlines, for example, can get normal profits if they need to reduce the capacity, the frequency of the operations and the period of operations, and at the same time bearing additional costs for complying health protocols. So we also need to mitigate at the same time, yeah, currently we also need to mitigate the potential new threats from another pandemic or endemic. But that's the gloomy side. But also we have some opportunities, I think. The economies now operate in the low interest rates. So it provides good support for businesses. The lending rate is in the good environment now. And also higher debt level can be structured into long-term obligations. So we have grace period to be utilized. I hope that our governments in ASEAN don't waste it. And businesses, especially micro SMEs, MSMEs in micro and small medium enterprise and hospitality industry, still need government supports. Now, how to utilize it to provide ways to new or renew business opportunities. I think that's the keyword is how to flip the challenges into opportunities here. Now, we look at the hardest hit sectors, airlines and tourism. Yeah, we could see that the hardest hit industry is tourism. The airline business is a complete halt. Considering the situation we just discussed, this industry won't be recovered soon. Yeah, I think governments still need to consider to give support for airlines, at least to maintain their planes, because it's more costly to restart after abandon the assets and the planes. Yeah. And second, we could see that the digital connectivity is the rising star sector during the pandemic. And we are aware that ASEAN economies still face digital inequalities. This is both challenge and opportunities. And digital e-commerce also still requires physical connectivity to deliver your goods to your door. So we can see, we have seen some early recovery in shipping industries. Then the government, if government faces the dilemma of limited budget for infrastructures and other pandemic handling management, let alone to talk about the cross-border infrastructures, I think one of the key here is to improve public investment management. So it will have to reduce the cost to make it more efficient and cost effective to maintain at least the countries and the region can maintain the level of the infrastructure supplies needed. So looking at the pipeline of MPAC 2025, which mainly dominated by roads, especially in Mekong region, I think we cannot avoid the effects of the pandemic. Yeah, at least in the near future now. But it's still relevant in the midterm and longer term. The obstacle come not from only the financing itself, but also from the implementing the projects during the pandemics. Yeah, if I may view my observations, that I think the current important sectors during the pandemic that can brought forward is digital connectivity, backbone roads, yeah, also seaport because of the trade connectivity, and water, sanitation, and hygiene. For backbone, for example, we need to deliver the basic necessities. We need to deliver vaccines. We need to deliver good health care for people. And for WAS, it's a basic needs to improve people immunity, also people health, basic health that has both immediate and long-term effects, and also in line with SDGs that are already committed by all our ASEAN leaders. And seaports also needed to support and trade and digital commerce. In midterm, then we can, the government may carry postpone post-port expansion planning, new railway and energy. And I think airports and new highway could be put in the longer term projects now. So what we can, in short, I think what we can see that ASEAN needs to strengthen their cooperations, yeah, to put a new regional strategy to recover from the pandemic and also rebuild stronger. And national efforts, government needs to reprioritize the whole spending policy, the spending programs, improve the efficiency of public investment, and resize the project. We may not need all the mega projects, but we can resize, start, and then grow it later on. And it's supported by low interest rates, the current low interest rates. Yeah. And in global drivers that we should also look at the trade facilitation and also trade cooperation, with RCEP being approved, and then EU relations that has historically quite good with ASEAN, and also US with the changes of the presidential terms. And also climate change adaptations. Still, I think all ASEAN economies still consider it is important and put it in their priority as well. But at the same time, we need to mitigate a new pandemic threats. Yeah. Now, last, it's about Korea and also perhaps Japan, yeah, that have some advantages to take significant part in reconnecting ASEAN. Because of these advantages, yeah, it has close proximity, yeah, and a good bilateral, also multilateral historical relationships. I've seen Korean chambers already exist in ASEAN for a long time, and also Korean has advanced technology that can be applied in ASEAN countries. You have experience and knowledge in quality infrastructure and regulatory reform. It's really important, and regulatory reform also interest in some countries like Thailand and Indonesia, and also the financial capacity that you can support the countries in ASEAN and also in MPAC projects. I think I stop here and thank you again for your time for me.
Thank you, Dr. Zen, for that comprehensive presentation. And listening to Dr. Zen, it seems that ASEAN, and in fact, the whole of this region has a lot of work cut out. Maybe I was a little bit too optimistic when I said perhaps by the second and third quarter, we'll be looking at some sense of new normal. But perhaps we may need to wait a little more. As I said, we're still not out of the woods yet. So it is at this stage that we really need to reprioritize, as Dr. Zen mentioned, some of the big projects that are out there, but then may need to be as I said, reprioritized and reformed in order to make sure that they are efficient. Because with the limited financing possibilities, although we're trying to promote more private investment, and where allocation of a lot of funds has to go into other areas for the fast recovery. As Dr. Zen mentioned, you need to first invest in public health. We have to be, it has to be safe enough for construction projects to go on, for infrastructure projects to happen. And then one thing interesting about Dr. Zen's, what she mentioned was that a lot of big boom in e-commerce during COVID-19 period, but at the same time, if you're going to do e-commerce, you're going to have the products delivered to you, so you need logistics anyway, and the physical infrastructure is required there at any rate. So a lot of work cut out for this year as this region gears itself to recovery. But at the same time, you mentioned turning challenges into opportunities. I also think the prospects are not necessarily that bad. This region suffered 4 to 5% contraction, as was mentioned earlier, but at the same time, a lot of multinational institutions are projecting that this region is expected to grow to another 3 to 6% this year, with many of the preparations that Dr. Zen mentioned will have to take place. But ASEAN has demonstrated strong commitment throughout last year in working together. They have translated concrete outcomes, such as the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Plan. And I think you will all agree, and I think this was also mentioned earlier, that ASEAN and Korea have fared pretty well, relatively well during the pandemic. And in the process, we have also worked very closely together in slowing the spread of the virus and ensuring a certain level of movement of people and goods. And this is actually well indicated by the trade volume, which I have some numbers here. The two regions recorded $144 billion in trade volume, bilateral trade volume in 2020. This is about a 5% drop from 2019, but still it's a very high volume given the initial disruptions from COVID-19 earlier in the year. And also, of course, the new Southern Policy Plus strategy will give renewed momentum to the partnership as we move forward with our the vision for ASEAN-Korea community of peace and prosperity. So once again, thank you, panelists, for your presentations. And at this time, I'm going to open up the floor for questions and discussions. So we did receive some questions through our YouTube live chat. Many of them you already mentioned, actually, but I think they want a little bit of an elaboration from what was mentioned. So with your permission, I will go ahead with the questions. And in addition to the questions, if our panelist wants to make additional comments, because you had so little time for your presentations, please do so at this time. So I received the first question from our YouTube live chat. It's directed to Mr. Takane. With regard to, it mentions that environment is a critical element in sustainable infrastructure. And so they want to ask how Japan's quality infrastructure reflects such trend, how it's moving toward green and smart infrastructure in this era, and how are green and smart infrastructure development implemented in ASEAN-Japan cooperation. I think you mentioned this a little bit in your presentation already, but if you can elaborate a little bit, maybe give us an example of how it's implemented in the projects.
Thank you for your question. Regarding the cooperating project between Korea and Japan, several coordination projects have been implemented since 2010. The Japan-Korea co-financing of the road improvement project in Mozambique 2010. And as I mentioned, the cooperation will be promoted based on the quality infrastructure and AIOP priorities in the future.
For Korea-Japan cooperation, you mean, within ASEAN? Or
just our
Japan's cooperation as in quality
yes.
infrastructure. Okay,
Yes.
okay. All right, thank you. I hope this answers the question to our person who gave the question. The second question that I received is for Ms. Yu and Mr. Im together. both of you, the same question. The question is, since the pandemic, what are some notable changes of the Korean companies who are investing and doing business in ASEAN supported by IFC and KIND? Have there been any regulatory or institutional changes in supporting Korean companies within IFC and KIND? I think maybe they're asking for the trends, if there are any changes in the trends among the Korean companies as they invest in ASEAN.
I have very little sample in terms of Korean companies, especially after pandemic. What they are focusing on is quite difficult to tell. But Korea has been traditionally investing hydropower and renewable energies, and I think the trend will continue. Of course, the pandemic has negatively impacted various sectors, airport, transport, and power. But then e-mobility, digital finance, and logistics all are thriving. And I think that's where Korean companies have competitive advantage. And we'd like to work with more with the Korean companies who are interested in expanding their presence in ASEAN markets. One thing that I forgot to actually mention during my earlier intervention is that the importance of the reforms by the government to attract private sector capital. In the end, when it comes to the infrastructure projects, whether it is sustainable or green or traditional projects, it's all about risk allocation. If the government is not going to take up their own share, then no private sector will try to enter the market. So I think after this pandemic, one silver lining that we see is the expectation of the reforms by the government that can strengthen the infrastructure sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lim, do you have something to add?
Actually, though, we have many discussions with the Korean companies for the New Year's, the business plan. I think there is no substantial changes in Korean construction companies' policy. They are very hungry because of the pandemic situation in last year, and so they would like to increase more business opportunities in all around the world, including the ASEAN countries. Even though we have the big 35 billion US dollars value of new orders in last year, is about more than 50% increase year-on-year base. But we're still looking for the many infrastructure businesses in ASEAN countries, and also we think about the new product, including the eco-friendly and some project based on sustainability and affordability, I think. Yeah.
Yes, this is actually good news. When you tell us that a lot of Korean companies are hungry, quote unquote, to invest in ASEAN. I guess in the end it comes down to matching. So a lot of projects out there by the government, a lot of private investors wanting to invest. And as Ms. Yu mentioned, it has to be bankable, of course. But then in the end, it comes down to how do you match the two so that they will be able to invest and these governments will be able to benefit from these investments. And that is where this kind of forum becomes important. This year, because it's an online forum, we haven't been able to have the one-on-one business meetings. But normally, every year when we held the connectivity forum, we had a separate session for one-on-one meetings where all the government presenters with the project owners basically come to Korea. We invite them, and then our Korean business people would join the forum, and they would actually sit down to have a meeting for the investments. And I think that was the benefit, that was the advantage of this forum. Unfortunately, we don't have this this year, but we do have a follow-up session coming up with presentations from the ASEAN governments, and hopefully our business partners will take a time to look at these presentations and seek out some of the good investments that could be made. Dr. Zen, I have one question that was forwarded to you. Many of it actually mentioned in your presentation, but I'll read out the question first. Adopted in 2016, the MPAC 2025 has been developed halfway as of today. And what were some critical challenges during the progress of the MPAC 2025? And then how were partnership cooperation made with other international stakeholders, maybe other dialogue partners? And you already mentioned this, but as one of the key partners of ASEAN, what are the strengths of Korea and how could Korea contribute to developing ASEAN connectivity and MPAC 2025?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think there's a challenge for because of the pandemic. Yeah, the disruptions of some the supplies as well, and also the people mobility, and also. But I think government will still consider it, given that the government also needs to spend, yeah, to boost the economy. Yeah. The current situation, we know that the demand, private demand, lower, while we know that we still have production capacity intact. So the disruptions, and then if government can handle these disruptions, barriers, then I think some projects are worth delivering now. Resuming now, because it will help the economy, local economies in the project sites, and also it actually, you know, the government policy, once they already commit to some policy, usually they already allocate funds for that. So actually, if the project can be considered quite useful, beneficially positive for the countries, then I think government will still resuming that the project. But the critical challenge is how to handle these disruptions. You know that last week I talked to my colleagues in the shipping industries in Indonesia. They said that they are ready to ship some materials to abroad, but then they don't have the containers, because containers are held in foreign ports, yeah, because of the lower frequency of the shipping operations, etc. So there's, I think, what's critical now for government is to work together to handle these disruptions. So how we can move our operation, our spending programs, yeah, and yeah, under these current protocols, health protocols, because of the pandemic.
Yes, thank you. Yes, in the end, again, it comes down to cooperation, right? How governments will have to work together, and also how they need to work together at the planning stage, actually, because it's once everything is fixed, it's very hard to make changes in the middle of the process. So yes, so once again, thank you. So do we have any additional comments that our panelists would like to make? I think we've already run pretty late from our time, so let me wrap this up. This brings our panel session to an end. Once again, thank you so much to our panelists for giving your time, for your presentations and your comments. And actually, although our audience here at this space is very little, I'm sure we have many online viewers. So may I ask for you to give a round of applause to all our panelists here. Thank you. Thank you very much. So back to you, Ji-yeon.
And all the panelists for your active participation. This calls for an end of the first panel discussion session. We will now have 5 minutes break time before the second session. The project presentation session will start from 3 o'clock. 5분간 휴식을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 두 번째 세션인 프로젝트 발표는 3시에 시작될 예정입니다. 아세안 사전 현지 녹화로 진행되는 프로젝트 발표에는 동시 통역 서비스 대신 한글 자막이 제공됩니다. 감사합니다. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you all again to the second session of the forum. The session will present the latest updates on projects in the transport, energy, and smart city sectors, and recommendation of potential areas of cooperation with the Korean business community in the post-pandemic era. First, we will have Her Excellency Maria Catalina Cabral, Undersecretary for Planning and PPP of Department of Public Works and Highways of the Philippines, to represent the transport sector under the title of Department of Public Works and Highways Infrastructure Programs and Projects, Building Resilience Amid COVID-19 Pandemic. 두 번째 세션은 코로나 이후 아세안 8개국이 중점으로 추진하는 교통, 에너지, 스마트시티 분야 프로젝트 발표회로 구성됩니다. 아세안 사전 현지 녹화로 진행되는 프로젝트 발표회는 동시통역 서비스 대신 한글 자막이 제공됩니다. 첫 번째 발표로 마리아 카타리나 카브랄 필리핀 공공사업도로부 차관님의 교통 발표 프로젝트를 시작하겠습니다.
Infrastructure development remains the best driver of economic growth. Now that we are starting to rebuild our communities after the pandemic and several catastrophes, we lean on infrastructure build-up to jumpstart our economy. With its multiplying effect in terms of employment and inclusive growth, the Philippine government is strengthening the Build, Build, Build program to revitalize the economy from the COVID-19 pandemic. As the administration banks on infrastructure development to revive a robust economic trajectory, Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, has become more eager in its major infrastructure thrust. More than half of the Philippine government's infrastructure spending is implemented by DPWH. The actual disbursements made by the department increased by 183%, from 715 billion pesos disbursements from 2012 to 2015 to 2 trillion pesos from 2016 to 2019. DPWH kept its commitment in materializing its major programs and initiatives for the benefit of the public. Our main objective is not only to build, but also to connect. It is important that the infrastructure projects we build are integrated and complement each other for it to be sustainable and promote inclusive growth across the country. Our main strategy is to build well-planned and integrated infrastructure that will decongest and avoid over-concentration of socioeconomic activities in highly urbanized areas and promote regional and rural development. Our country's geographical location renders us prone to natural disasters. DPWH will continue to develop and implement resilient infrastructure, including non-structural measures that will improve the community's capacity to anticipate, mitigate, and withstand from a natural disaster. One of the projects that will mitigate the effects of flooding is the Korean-assisted integrated disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation measures in the low-lying areas of Pampanga Bay. The project is almost 50% complete and is targeted to be completed in 2022. While we may boast of our country's rich archipelagic state, the scattered archipelago's terrain also posed challenges in our travel experience. The Inter-Island Linkage Mega Bridge Program will provide linkages among the various islands of the country through the construction of short and long-span bridges. Included under this Mega Bridge Program is the 3.16-kilometer Pangil Bay Bridge in Mindanao. The design and build project is 3% complete. The detailed engineering design is almost 60% complete, and the earthworks at Tubod and Tanggub site are already ongoing. Expanding the country's highways and expressways will give way to regional development and will eventually decongest highly urbanized areas. The government will build and lay the groundwork for more than 1,000 kilometers of new high-standard highways and expressways in Luzon, Cebu, and Davao. One of the game-changing projects of the government is the Luzon Spine Expressway Network Program, where we have a total of 905 kilometers of high-standard highway and expressways in Luzon targeted to be implemented and constructed, which is about twice the 380 kilometers of existing expressways currently. The 633 billion peso priority program of the government aims to reduce travel time between Ilocos and Bicol from 20 hours to just about 9 hours. We already finished the final section of Tarlac-Pangasinan-La Union Expressway, the Phase 2 of the Arterial Road Bypass Project, the NLEX Harbor Link Segment 10, and the C3 R10 section, NAIA Phase 2, and the main trunk line of the Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3. The Department of Public Works and Highways is also prioritizing projects that will increase the country's connectivity and mobility, as well as establish new local growth areas for tourism, trade, and logistics. One good example is the Korean-assisted Summer Pacific Coastal Road, which is almost 50% complete and targeted to be completed this year. As a measure to limit the spread of COVID-19 in the country, we have institutionalized several measures that includes community quarantines or lockdowns with varying strictness. These were imposed by the government. The Enhanced Community Quarantine or ECQ is the strictest of such measures. I will show you the projects that are allowed according to the type of the community quarantine. In fast-tracking infrastructure development, the government health protocols will religiously be adhered to by DPWH. We have issued Department Order 39 last year, prescribing the construction safety guidelines in order to continue construction activities without adversely affecting the health of the workers. Part of our journey to recovery, we have become even more relentless in rolling out infrastructure projects that are expected to rekindle our economy, provide opportunities, especially to those who lost their jobs during the pandemic. What we build is the future and the life of our people. And as we heal as one, we will build our future as one. Thank you so much for listening. Good luck and keep safe and success on all your worthwhile endeavors. Certainly, we have a lot of opportunities for cooperation and collaboration with Korean partners, particularly in tapping your expertise in building a lot of our infrastructure program, particularly on building long-span bridges across the country. We are an archipelago, and many of our bridges will have to be designed through deep bodies of water, and here we can tap Korean expertise. Another area that we can probably collaborate with you is our flood control program. As you know, the Philippines we have experienced a lot of disasters. No? We are located in the Pacific Ring of Fire, and therefore the expertise of Korean engineers and using Korean technology will be a lot of help to us in making sure that we build the correct flood control structures, mitigate the impact of climate change in our country as we continue to find solutions and long-term solutions at that to solve the flooding problem as well as the traffic problem as well.
Thank you, Her Excellency, for joining us through virtual recording all the way from the Philippines. Next, for the energy presentations, we have 3 representatives from Indonesia, Lao PDR, and Malaysia. Mr. Alma Karma, Director of Indonesian Investment Coordinating Board, will present on renewable energy sector investment opportunity in Indonesia. Next, we have Mr. Akson Kamsavan, Deputy Director of Ministry of Energy and Mines of the Lao PDR, to introduce Lao PDR's efforts in enhancing energy connectivity within the region. Lastly, Mr. Abdul Razib Dawood, CEO of Malaysia Energy Commission, will present on the energy sector infrastructure projects in Malaysia. 지금부터 인도네시아 투자청, 라오스 에너지 광산부, 말레이시아 에너지위원회의 에너지 발표가 이어지겠습니다.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to join the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, on this excellent opportunity, let me convey about renewable energy sector's investment opportunity in Indonesia. First, I would like to share about investment realization in Indonesia during the Q3 from July to September 2020. The investment relation reached about 25.6% from 2020 target with the following. The top 5 FDI are Singapore, China, Japan, Hong Kong, and Netherlands. Based on sector, third sector is the first, about the 56%, the following by secondary sector, 35%, and primary sector, 9%. Investment distribution, 47.2% located in Java, and 52.8% located outside Java, which we note as a very good sign of investment starting to spread throughout Indonesia. While the top 5 FDI locations are in West Java, Jakarta, North Maluku, Banten, and Rio Island. If we look in the last 5 years from 2015 until the recent Q3 2020, Asian countries dominated FDI in Indonesia with a share of 72% of total FDI realization, with South Korea being the 7th largest since 2015. Meanwhile, the top 5 countries are Singapore, Japan, China, Hong Kong, and Malaysia. Singapore has been number 1 FDI realization for years, and one of the reasons is because it acts as an investment hub for companies around the globe. Therefore, most of Singapore FDI in Indonesia actually come from other countries such as US and Europe. If we talk about South Korea investment, its realization are majorly located in the Java Island, followed by Kalimantan, Maluku, and Papua. South Korea investment realization in Indonesia over the past 5 years have resulted in local labor absorption of 660,555 local workers with 70,115 projects has been carried out by South Korea companies in Indonesia. The investments are dominated in the following sectors: electricity, gas and water supply, machinery, electronic, medical instrument, precision, optical and watch industry, mining, chemical and pharmaceutical industry, leather goods and footwear industry. We see investment as a means to increase our productivity and competitiveness. Therefore, we are also focusing to attract more investment in priority sectors. One of them is renewable energy. In order to encourage the development of new renewable energy and decrease dependency on fossil energy source in Indonesia, the government of Indonesia is targeting to increase the supply of new renewable energy so that it can contribute 23% of the national energy mix by 2025. Currently, new renewable energy contributes only 13% of the national energy mix. In addition, by 2025, the Indonesian government is also targeting new renewable energy to become a source of power generation with the composition of 40% of national electricity capacity. With Indonesia's geographic condition, which is located on the equator and gets a relatively high intensity of the sunlight throughout the year, It provides a benefit for the development of solar power plants in Indonesia, so that the investment opportunity for solar panels are widely spread across all regions in Indonesia. As the fourth most populous country in the world, Indonesia has challenges in managing the domestic waste that accumulated day by day. For this reason, the Indonesian government encouraged the development of the waste to energy sector so that it can be a solution to waste problems as well as a potential source of electrical energy. Several regions have also offered ready to offer projects in the waste to energy sector, including South Sulawesi, East Kalimantan, Central Java, West Java, the special region of Jakarta, Lampung, and Banten. BKPM can facilitate if any investor who are interested on this project. Indonesia government had set a limitation for foreign capital ownership for various sectors, including the electricity sector, based on presidential regulation number of 44 of 2016, or we call it as a negative list. However, in order to increase the ease of doing business, negative list will be replaced by a priority investment list, under which only 6 sectors are fully closed to investment. Our remaining sectors are stated as the being open to foreign investment. Through the application of the positive list, the productive sectors are encouraged and it will be leveraged quality of economic growth, reduce unemployment, and improve welfare. So, at the end of this excellent opportunity, I would like to invite you all to invest in Indonesia. Let's invest in Indonesia. Thank you very much. In these energy sectors, investors have opportunity to invest and carry out cooperation in the various national strategic projects, as well as a regional project using the public-private partnerships, or we call it as a PPP scheme, or as a strategic partner. For example, South Sulawesi offers the Tamangapa landfill Makassar waste to energy project under PPP scheme. And West Java offered the Greater Cirebon Solid Waste Treatment Plant project with the strategic partner scheme with the regional owned enterprise. If there are any investor interested in finding out more about this scheme of cooperation, BKPM together with the related ministers or agency and local governments can facilitate the investment interest.
Sabadi and good morning. My name is Sakson Kamsawat, Deputy Director General, Department of Planning and Cooperation, Ministry of Energy and Mine, Laos. It is special to me to have an opportunity today to share with you on the updated progress of interconnection connectivity that Lao PDR is working on. I am pleased to brief you of the progress as follows. With the promising potentials of clean generation source of hydroelectric power of more than 26,000 megawatts, without counting the potentials of the Mekong mainstream project, our country is doing well in attracting the investment into the power generation industry. As a result, now Laos is operating 78 power plants with total installed capacity of around 9,900 megawatts. Of that, generation is about 52,000 gigawatt hours per annum. The power we generate are for domestic supply and also export to neighboring ASEAN member states, based on 4 existing bilateral MOUs. With Thailand, the expanding MOU on power cooperation as platform for the potential increasing supply from 7,000 megawatts to 9,000 megawatts. So far, Lao PDR had exported nearly 6,000 megawatts and the remaining of 3,500 megawatts. According to the PDP of Thailand, It is anticipated import the power during 2026 to 2035. With Vietnam, MOU was signed between the two countries in 2016, and the agreement on energy and mining development cooperation signed in 2019, aiming to supply 1,000 megawatt in 2020, 3,000 megawatt in 2025, and 5,000 megawatt in 2030. With Cambodia, agreement on power sector cooperation signed between the two countries in 1999, MOU on power purchase signed in 2018, and the power purchase agreement signed in the following year. We are now constructing the 500 kV interconnection with Cambodia and the commissioning plan in November next year. And for Myanmar, MOU on electric power cooperation signed in 2018. And in relation to that, with the support from ADB, both Laos and Myanmar are deploying local experts to join the work on 500 kV interconnection study. Apart from that, this is the highlighted cooperation under the ASEAN spirit. We are now continuing Laos, Thailand, Malaysia Power Interconnection Project Phase 2 that increased the potential supply from Laos from 100 megawatt to 300 megawatt, while currently the three countries are now working with Singapore to drive the supply of 100 megawatt 24/7 to Singapore in 2022 through the existing interconnections among us. With the spirit of ASEAN, Laos is very keen to actively continue joining the task on ASEAN cooperation in regard of multilateral power trade, as we believe that export of clean and quality power export from Laos will indeed contribute to the aspirational target for the renewable energy. Therefore, under our 9th 5-year sectoral development plan for the year 2021 and the year 2025, we foresee the requirement of additional investment from private sector in high voltage transmission for both facilitating the domestic supply as well as interconnection. I would like to touch on Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025 that in 2019, with support from World Bank, the screening and the selection of the initial rolling priority pipeline of infrastructure projects were prepared. For the energy interconnection, we are informed that the two projects for the Laos interconnections with Vietnam in the south on the scheme extending of the existing line of IPP exporting power to Vietnam, and another greenfield project connecting with Myanmar in the north for the potential supply of 300 megawatt to Chan state of Myanmar. Before I conclude my broadcast presentation on Lao power interconnection, I would like to relate to you a brief of cooperation between IFC and the Ministry of Energy and Mines. Early last year, Ministry of Energy and Mines and IFC signed MOU to carry out the preliminary feasibility study on 500 kV interconnection between Laos and Myanmar and Vietnam for BOT PPP transaction. That the study will assess and explore the technical parameter, initial cost, legal arrangements, and as well as environmental and social mitigation assessment. In line with the Lao relevant law, particularly the electricity law, we look forward to preparing the solicited selection of the investor for this project if it sounds financially feasible and in line with Vietnam Power Development Plan. Dear Sir and Madams, for the conclusion, I would like to once again express that in the next 5 years, Lao PDR is very profound to work with private sector to involve in the connectivity of the regions that facilitate the supply of clean, quality, and competitive generation from Laos on the possible extent to other AMS, either on the bilateral as well as multilateral arrangement. Thank you very much. Please be safely protected from COVID. Sabadi and Khopjai. From my working experience, I appreciate working with Korean Western Power on their work in Sapien Sinamnoi hydropower project. There they work as a contractor for operation and maintenance. I appreciate them that they work in line with the law to ensure the labor proportion between foreign and Lao laborers, and also the excellent provision of the training and skill required for the work. Thank you.
Good day to all the participants of the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. It is my greatest pleasure to speak to all of you about the energy sector infrastructure projects in Malaysia. First of all, I'll be walking you through the overview of Malaysia power system. Following that, I'll be talking about the future energy sector infrastructure projects in Malaysia, which include the growth of renewable energy, energy storage, smart grids, and energy digitalization that can serve as good opportunities for investment. For your information, Hyundai is the appointed EPCC contractor for the 2,242 megawatts Edra Malacca project, which is expected to begin operation in 2021. Once completed, it will be Malaysia's largest and most efficient combined cycle gas turbine power plants. Malaysia has a highly reliable and dependable grid system that serves as strong backbone. In 2020, Malaysia recorded a world-class system minutes of 0.08 minutes. By the end of 2021, the grid system is expected to have a sufficient reserve margin. The fuel supply is strongly secured with the support of well-established gas pipeline infrastructure, coal and hydro. In addition, we are determined to further enhance our grid system with the ongoing deployments of smart technologies. Moving forward, Malaysia will take an optimal approach to meet our energy transition policy by taking into account of energy security, affordability, and environmental sustainability. Malaysia is still in its early stage of renewable energy journey. A well-thought-of RE policy is in place, which will be exciting and promising for the RE sector. The supports from government, industrial, and residential have been very strong and well received. New technologies will be installed to keep the grid safe and sufficient. Malaysia has set up the goal of 20% RE target by 2025. $8 billion of US dollars investment is needed to achieve this objective. Since 2011, Malaysia has launched the first RE scheme known as Feed-in Tariff or FIT. To date, more than 700 megawatt of FIT is approved. Then in 2015, second RE scheme known as Net Energy Metering or NEM was launched. This scheme has successfully allocated 500 megawatts approved quota to potential solar adopters. In 2016, Malaysia has opened tender for its large-scale solar biddings. Up until now, more than 2,500 megawatts of grid-scale solar projects are implemented through this scheme. Hence, Malaysia is on track to achieve its 20% RE target by 2025. Without leveraging on energy storage, solar penetration may not be pushed further due to the system stability and balancing. Hence, energy system integration using storage technology will receive a strong tailwind from the ambitious goal of 20% RE target by 2025. The forecasted peak demand for 2025 will be 18,608 megawatts, allowing nearly 5,000 of solar power. Hence, investment into storage technology will be required to enable higher solar penetration while reducing solar intermittency. Investment into energy storage not only will allow higher solar penetration, it will be the enabler of distributed energy resources for demand-side management and load-shifting technology. Hence, this will greatly improve the grid efficiency and reliability. TMB, the biggest electricity utility company in Malaysia, has begun investing $700 million into technologies to build grid of the future. The investment includes advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, and grid automation, which are expected to contribute to further advancement in network reliability and efficiency. Smart meters installation has been rolled out in stages since 2018. Four key components of smart grids are electrical communication, artificial intelligence algorithms, decentralization, and self-healing. Grid infrastructures, smart meters, Internet of Things, IoTs, sensors, and smart appliances can open up real-time communications. AI algorithms, machine learning, and big data analysis will solve complex problems and allow energy to be managed comprehensively. Decentralized grids that are highly interconnected will be able to facilitate two-way power flow and bottoms-up power transfer from DERs. Self-healing properties of smart grid will automatically regulate supply and demand during breakdown and disruption. This will enhance the customer experience and satisfaction. Other than electricity generation and transmission, Malaysia puts strong effort to improve the energy efficiency through digitalization. Trends of energy digitalization and energy efficient appliances have seen strong adoption across commercial and industrial buildings. Operational expenses for businesses can be significantly reduced using digitalized energy data. The collected data is integrated in a single platform and converted into business intelligence to cut total energy use. Virtual power plant technology is one of the options using digital electricity infrastructure to sell and move energy around. Hence, renewable energy, energy storage, smart grids, and energy digitalization are the main areas of investment for future energy sector infrastructure projects in Malaysia. I hope that these opportunities for investment will open up more business collaborations between Koreans and Malaysian enterprises. Thank you very much. Malaysia will continue to enhance infrastructure resiliency across transmission and distribution network to allow for bidirectional flow capability and advanced network management to reach the growth trajectory of 20% renewable energy by 2025. Investment towards energy storage is also required to better optimize RE. In addition, adoption of smart grid for features like demand-side management and automated protection and control will start picking up. Last but not least, energy digitalization will improve the visibility of distributed generation and energy usage optimization. Thank you.
Thank you everyone from Indonesia, Laos, PDR, and Malaysia for your contribution to the energy project presentations. Last but not least, we have Smart Cities project presentations from 4 countries: Brunei, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. We will start the presentation by having Ms. Haja Nurul Izni, Executive Officer from Ministry of Transport and Info Communications of Brunei, to introduce Smart Public Bus in Brunei Darussalam. Next, we have Mr. Myo Aung, Permanent Secretary of NEPIDO Development Committee of Myanmar, to present on Smart Cities action plans in Myanmar. Dr. Supakorn Siddhichai, Executive Vice President of Digital Economy Promotion Agency of Thailand, will have his presentation entitled Driving Smart Livable Cities in Thailand. And as for our last presenter, we have Eun Yuen Jong Tien, Deputy Director General of People's Committee of Gwangnin Province, to introduce future development plans of Gwangnin Province's smart cities. 마지막으로 브루나이, 미얀마, 태국, 그리고 베트남의 스마트 시티 프로젝트 발표가 있겠습니다.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and warm greetings from the Ministry of Transport and Infocommunications of Brunei Darussalam. Dear Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nur Izni Murni from the Ministry of Transport and Infocommunications of Brunei Darussalam. At the outset, allow me on behalf of the Government of His Majesty the Sultan and Yang di-Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam to express our sincere appreciation to the ASEAN-Korea Center for organizing the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. On this occasion, it gives me great pleasure to present a potential opportunity in Brunei Darussalam, which focuses on smart public bus in support of Brunei Vision 2035 regional and global transport-related initiatives. First, I would like to begin with some brief background on Brunei Darussalam and also the current landscape in transport and communication sectors. Brunei Darussalam, located at the northern coast of the Borneo Island, has a total land area of 5,765 square kilometers. It is divided into 4 main districts, namely Brunei Muara, Blayit, Tutong, and Temburong. Since March this year, Temburong district has been connected to the Brunei Muara district via a sea bridge known as the Sultan Haji Omar Ali Saifuddin Bridge to ease and enhance travel between the two districts. As of 2019, Brunei Darussalam has a total population of 459,500, with 63%, that is 289,100 persons, made up of working age between 20 to 59 years, while 8% comprises senior citizens, that is 60 years and above. Therefore, mobility remains crucial for these age groups, whether for school, work, or community and leisure activities. Moving on to 2019 statistical data on transport and communication sectors in Brunei Darussalam. For transport sector, in terms of road infrastructure, the total length of road covers 3,713.57 kilometers across the 4 districts. Currently, there are 287,756 active vehicles comprising private cars, taxis, goods vehicles, buses, motorcycles, and scooters, whereas private vehicles made up 92.5% of the total share of active vehicles, indicating a very high dependency on this mode of transport. According to Brunei Darussalam National Climate Change Policy, which was launched last July, the carbon emissions contribution from the land transport sector amounted to 13.6%, making the sector the 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions in the country. In terms of public transportation, there are currently 50 to 60 active public buses operating both intra and inter-district routes. For intra-district, there are 6 bus network routes in the Brunei Muara district, that is the Central, Circle, Eastern, Northern, Southern, and Western lines. For inter-district, it is currently operated between Bandar Seri Begawan, Tutong Town, Syria Town, and Kuala Blayit. With the current available bus network services, it has a total annual of 2,123,755 ridership. Next, on the communication sector, there are a total of 645,246 mobile subscribers, which is equivalent to 140.4% mobile penetration rate within the country. This shows that digital literacy is fast growing, which also reflects the gradual incremental movement towards 4th Industrial Revolution. In 2007, His Majesty the Sultan and Yang di-Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam consented to the establishment of a vision for the country called Wawasan Brunei 2035. Launched in 2008, Wawasan Brunei 2035 is the nation's aspiration to ensure that the people of the country are educated, highly skilled and accomplished, enjoy high quality of life, and the nation having an economy that is dynamic and sustainable. These forms the 3 main targeted goals to be achieved by 2035. On this slide, I will bring you to the evolution of public bus service in Brunei Darussalam. The first franchise bus service and operators, known as the Purple Bus, were introduced in 1995, starting with the Circle Line in March, followed by the Central Line in August. The public bus service was expanded over the next 2 years to include the Northern Line, Eastern Line, Southern Line in 1996, and lastly, the Western Line in 1997. In 2013, the public bus service launched its new image by color coding according to the 6 intra-district routes. Later in 2017, the government through the ministry along with Land Transport Department further reviewed the inter and intra-bus network services. With the advent of new technology and also an increasing need for mobility, the government is looking into introducing the Intelligent Transport System applications to further improve and revitalize the public bus services in the country. This will include applications for Bus Passenger Information System or BPIS, bus ticketing system, bus scheduling system, real-time live surveillance, data collection for driving behavior by operators and passenger flows, as well as bus fleet management. The Land Transport Master Plan, or LTMP, was launched in 2014 with the objective of achieving an integrated, efficient, safe, clean, rapid land transport system which offers choices for all and supports sustainable economic development of Brunei Darussalam. The LTMP has 7 policy themes that supports the 4 main strategies forming the basis of the LTMP, which are 1. Reducing car dependency, 2. Keep traffic moving, 3. Achieving sustainable society, and 4. Strengthening governance. Each policy theme plays a significant role in realizing the objectives of the LTMP. The focus for this presentation is on the theme of promoting public transport. This prioritizes the development of accessible, integrated, high-quality networks for transport modes. It also offers an alternative to the private car to promote modal shift as well towards reducing car dependency. This year, 2 key important documents were launched that further support the upgrading of the public transport system, which are Strategic Plan for the Ministry of Transport and Infocommunications 2025 or MTIC 2025 and Digital Economy Master Plan 2025. Under Strategic Objective 2 of MTIC 2025, the targeted goal is to increase bus ridership by 10%. Meanwhile, under the Digital Economy Master Plan 2025, 2 key projects were identified for implementation, which are the Public Transport Information System and Intelligent Transport System. These initiatives and projects form the basis for Brunei Darussalam's aspiration to upgrade the public bus services by incorporating technological solutions and innovation. Public bus is still not the preferred mode of transportation for most population. There are varying issues and challenges that need to be adequately addressed. As you can see, among others, there are 7 identified issues as follows. 1. High car dependency, which remains the preferred choice of transport. 2. This has led to high carbon emissions in the land transport sector. 3. Lack of technological innovation and enhancement for bus services. 4. Inconsistent and irregular bus service frequency. 5. Bus network coverage is not fully accessible. 6. Limited hours of operations, which also lead to less flexibility for movement. And 7. Unreliable bus information. Therefore, incorporating technological innovation and solutions is needed to transform the current public bus service into a safer, rapid, and green public transport system. By mid-2020, the Ministry of Transport and Infocommunications has started looking into several initiatives which began with a Bus Passenger Information System application that would enhance information provision regarding the country's public bus services. The targeted users would focus on passengers, operators, as well as policy and decision makers. For passengers, this system is envisaged to provide accurate and real-time information in terms of 1. Bus routes, 2. Bus schedules, 3. Bus ticketing, and 4. Automated bus tracking, which would be made available through a mobile application. Accurate and accessible information are crucial in encouraging commuters to make informed choices on their options for mobility. Meanwhile, a future system is envisaged for bus operators, which is intended to further improving passengers' experience and comfort while using the bus and also to maintain punctuality, which would then potentially increase ridership and revenue. The system would also help operators in better managing their bus fleet, optimizing bus routes, and ensuring buses are roadworthy for safeguarding road safety. Equally important is those critical data to be collected from the installed systems to further assist in terms of improving policy formulation and well-informed decisions. Such data would further enhance safety in the public transport system, potentially decrease environmental impact with more traveling options, and further improve effectiveness in transport management, regulatory, and enforcement. What I have shared earlier simply focused on basic application of Bus Passenger Information System, which forms an integral part of our journey towards improving transport connectivity within the country. Beyond that is the provision of a public bus service that aims to better integrate and optimize other modes of public transport by aligning with land use planning, infrastructure development, and a diverse range of mobility needs. By incorporating all these elements, it covers wider policy themes as outlined earlier in the Land Transport Master Plan. At the same time, the ultimate goal is to tackle road congestion and car dependency, promote social sustainability, and preserve the environment as well as conserve energy. This is crucial towards realizing a sustainable and connected smart nation. With this, I have come to the end of my presentation. Before I close, I would like to once again express our profound thanks to ASEAN-Korea Center for this opportunity. Many thanks to Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen for your kind attention, and we look forward to receiving your kind support. Thank you very much. So the economy of Brunei Darussalam has been dependent on the oil and gas sector as both its main export and income. With the Wawasan Brunei or Brunei Vision 2035, it is important to ensure the economy is sustainable for our future generations. Therefore, diversifying our economy is among the main agenda in the nation's economic development, which is in line with Goal 3 of the vision, among others, to utilize knowledge and technology as the basis of development in realizing the country's economic potential. Hence, we are looking at improving the public bus transport system throughout the whole country, and especially now with the new Sultan Haji Omar Ali Saifuddin Bridge, making Temburun District, affectionately called the Green Jewel of Brunei, even more accessible. One of the ultimate goals is to offer a diverse range of options for mobility, besides depending on private vehicles, which we hope to improve passengers' experience and comfort through the smart bus ride by using the advanced technology of intelligent transport system. At the same time, with the mobile applications that provide accessible, accurate, and reliable bus services and related information, we are also targeting the bus operators, policy, and decision makers. These are critical for the purposes of well-informed policy and decision-making, efficient transport management, effective regulatory control and enforcement, which lead to spin-offs such as travel demand management and also enhancing road safety. So we see a model shift to using the public bus transportation system will open up many opportunities and potentially maximize productivity, not just among commuters but also for the nation. Thus, with readily accessible data and information, coupled with digital innovation, is the heart of an integrated and optimized public transport system. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my appreciation to ASEAN-Korean Center and related stakeholders for organizing this great event. I am Ji-yeon, Permanent Secretary for Nebido Development Committee and also the National Representative of ASEAN Smart City Network for Myanmar. I would like to present briefly about the Smart City Action Plans for the 3 ASEAN member cities of Myanmar, Nebido, Yangon, and Mandalay. For Nebido, we have chosen 4 focus areas of ASEAN framework, such as civic and social, health and well-being, quality environment, and build infrastructure. According to these focus areas, we have been implementing the affordable housing and low-cost housing project, smart street lighting system based on IoT platform and Safe City project. Affordable housing and low-cost housing project includes the housing for government employees and rental housing for retired government employees. One of the pilot projects implementing in Nebido is smart street lighting system. In this project, LED smart street lighting with environmental sensors are installing 2 km long segment of the main road. We will submit the cost and benefits analysis of this pilot project to the central government, and then we will implement for the whole city. The other project implementing in Nebido is Safe City project. Nebido is the administrative city of Myanmar, so the protection of the crime is one of the major challenges to be a livable city. In this project, the surveillance system with more than 300 CCTV cameras was installed other public areas such as road junctures, traffic lights, lampposts, and markets. For Yangon, among 6 pillars of ASEAN framework, Yangon is set on the 3 pillars: civic and social, quality environment, and build infrastructure. To achieve the strategic outcomes of ASEAN Smart City Network, Yangon is implementing the policy guidelines and projects by collaborating with local governments and international organizations, not only ICT but also PPP and public participation. The first project is conservation of downtown Yangon to maintain the conservation of downtown heritage buildings and improvement of streetscapes. So, we have plans to conserve the valuable heritage buildings. YCDC and Yangon Heritage Trust are cooperating for the Blue Flag program since 2014. The second project is Transit-Oriented Development TOD in Fauziah Township. The project area is about 300 acres and it is the important gateway to Yangon region, as well as the industrial zone are situated. It also includes the rental housing for the public. Currently, a feasibility study has been undertaken by cooperating with French planners. Near this area, we also plan the Yangon Urban Mass Rapid Transport YUMRT line. This project is under the Yangon Regional Government's guidance. Ministry of Transport and Communication and JIGA involves as counterpart. The third project is One Met Yangon. YCDC cooperates with United Kingdom team and local NGOs to make the online services system for Yangon, currently based on the Yangon's building GIS database. Departments of YCDC are cooperating to merge the different data to transform the online service system in the future. For Mandalay, we have been implementing the various applications as per the focus areas of the ASEAN Smart City Framework. For safety and security pillar, street light and traffic light control management system and safe city system. For social and service of the city, municipal mobile apps, GIS system and Mandalay Smart Pay system. For build infrastructure pillar, control center and data centers. For industrial and innovation pillar, building permit information management system. And finally, for quality environment pillar, air pollution monitoring system and LoRa network and IoT-based technology. For water management system have been implementing as the separate running silo projects. Currently, now is the time to integrate the existing separated silo project as one integrated smart city project. The above-mentioned projects are to be integrated through APIs and the data collected by the sensor network. IoT devices and CCTVs are to be integrated through LoRa technology. And then, all of the payment process are integrated into the Mandalay Smart Pay payment platform. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that we are actively participating in ASEAN Smart City Network, and I would like to invite the Korean investor and the technologies to participate in the implementation of Smart City project in Myanmar. Thank you very much for your attention. Currently, some Korean organizations are cooperating partnership in Yangon region, but it is not within the smart city sectors. There are various smart city sectors to collaborate in Myanmar. So I would like to invite Korean investor and the technology to cooperate within the smart city sectors for Naypyidaw, Yangon, and Mandalay. Thank you.
Greetings to all colleagues in Korea, as well as all ASEAN member states. My name is Pakon Sithichai from Thailand, representing Thailand on the topic of smart and livable cities in Thailand. As everyone is aware that urbanization is looming, and within less than 30 years' time, we will have 7 in every 10 people living in the cities. This brings a big challenge to all cities, including all the cities in Asia, in ASEAN. This is why everyone is talking about the topic of smart cities. So we want our cities to be more efficient, cleaner, safer, as well as bring us better opportunities. DEPA, or Digital Economy Promotion Agency, is a new agency set up by the Thai government back in 2017. We are tasked to drive the digital industry and innovation in Thailand. And smart city is also considered as the one that brings the demand to this digital industry. And in Thailand, the government also has set up this smart city initiative, where it's become one of the national agenda. The Prime Minister has appointed the Deputy Prime Minister to head Smart City National Committee. And this committee is tasked to drive smart cities around Thailand, as well as unlocking all the obstacles from bureaucracy, as well as all the laws and regulations to drive smart cities. DEPA also acts as the hub where we connect the central government and local government, as well as the private sectors and the academia, in order to let them come together and help to drive smart cities. So in order to, for the government to drive smart cities, government is providing incentives for the cities that have completed the development plan for their cities. So this development plan is considered as a starting point for each city, where they have to look at 5 different aspects. The first one is each city must have a clearly defined goal. Basically, for example, if you are a tourist destination, then a goal could be something like providing a city as a sustainable tourist industry. And the second goal, or the second aspect of the 5, is to see what infrastructure is required in order to achieve that goal. For example, in this tourist destination, a proper infrastructure would include all the mobility service, including connections to the airport or the public transport, as well as other infrastructure like soft infrastructure, including a platform to provide necessary services to the tourists. The third one is the city data platform. This is where a city can become smarter by having the available information to make the right decisions. All the 7 smart services, including environment, energy, economy, people, living, mobility, and governance. So these smart services will provide the solutions to achieve the goal of that city. And the last but not least is the management of this smart city project. As everyone might be aware of, a smart city development is not an end, but is a process where you keep improving new services to meet the requirements of the local people. In the eastern part of Thailand, there's a government initiative to promote new economic zone. This is called Eastern Economic Corridor, which consists of 3 provinces, including Chonburi, Rayong, and Chachoengsao. The government is investing in infrastructure upgrades, as well as many other upgrades in terms of manpower, as well as industrial areas. So these include digital park, where the government is trying to attract and promote digital industries in Thailand, as we see that digital industry will be the main enabling industry in driving Thailand ahead. And part of the Eastern Economic Corridor development is called Thailand Digital Valley. This is where the Thai government is trying to connect the large tech companies from around the world together with Thai SMEs through this Thailand Digital Valley project, where an ecosystem will be provided in order to link and transfer technologies and also provide new services to these SMEs. The people of Phuket want to have a sustainable tourism industry. So what do they mean by that? Actually, when we talk about sustainable tourism industry, do we ask ourselves whether we want more tourists, or do we want them to stay longer, or do we want them to keep coming back, or do we want them to spend more time in the island? So in order to achieve this goal, basically a tourist probably want to feel safe when they come to Phuket, and they want to be comfortable when they move around on the island, or whether hopping from island to island. So with this in mind, we look at various safety issues that we have encountered in Phuket. So the first one is about road safety. In order to improve this traffic accidents, we're trying to enforce the traffic laws using technology. So this has dramatically reduced the traffic accidents in Phuket. The majority of the SMEs in Thailand are also in manufacturing areas, agriculture area, and service area, including tourism. And there are many digital technologies that will provide them with better efficiency in the business operation. Okay, in 2019, Thailand as a chair of the ASEAN, and together with the ASEAN Smart Cities Network, we had 2 meetings with the ASEAN members, and we have adopted the ASEAN Smart Cities framework as well as the terms of reference. So those achievements have been carried on and further improved in the meeting in Vietnam this year in 2020. Furthermore, we have also engaged with many external partners, including Korea, Japan, United States, as well as some European countries. Following the 2019 ASEAN activities in Thailand, we have taken over the initiative of Singapore in Chief Smart City Officer title and organized online course to train representatives from the cities and municipalities. And this course provides a fundamental background in terms of smart city development, and it is called Chief Smart City Officer online course. Furthermore, this is made available on the website where people can access freely in their own time to learn about smart city and fundamentals and obtain certificate in order to go back and work with their cities to provide the further planning. Thank you very much. Last but not least, I would like to extend a welcome to an upcoming event on the 16th of December. This event is called Thailand-Korea Smart City Day, which will be held in Bangkok. But it is a hybrid event, so you can also join online and offline. So all Korean participants are welcome. Please contact Kotra for further details. Thank you.
First of all, I'm very happy to speak on behalf of Vietnam as a GHACF. The topic of my presentation is to introduce smart, green, and sustainable infrastructure as new opportunities in the post-pandemic for recent recovery. My talk is particularly relevant to Part 1 is an overview of Quang Ninh. Part 2 is building smart city, introducing smart, green, and sustainable infrastructure, new opportunities in the pandemic COVID-19. Part 3 is plan for the future, connection infrastructure, projects plan for the implementation. In Part 1, in terms of achievement of the economic development, Quang Ninh is in northeastern province of Vietnam, considered as a miniature Vietnam. Heavily affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, Quang Ninh gave highest priority to epidemic prevention, care, and protection for the people's health, while implementing disease control, maintain safety, stability, development areas. The prerequisites factors ensure success in the implementation of dual goals in 2020. The economy has continuously experienced high and stable growth, still reaching over 10% in 2020. The GDP per capita reached over $6,700, 2 times higher than the national average. The economic structure, industry service accounts for the highest proportion of the over 50%. The rest are other fields. The number of tourists coming to Quang Ninh is 8.8 million. And in terms of business investment environment, Quang Ninh is always an attractive destination for investors. Business investment environment of the province has been continuously improved. For 3 years, Quang Ninh has been the leading province #1 in the PCI PAR and CPAC index, ranked third in PAPI ICT index out of the 63 provinces and cities. In 2018, Quang Ninh has awarded a prestigious associate awards for digital government with its successes and results in building e-government. And regarding recording the spectacular development of Quang Ninh, the determination and long-term vision of the generation of leaders in Quang Ninh province have created breakthrough movement in the local development process. Quang Ninh is rising to become an important economic center of Vietnam. Strategic planning to break term thinking, think big and do big, breakthrough in administrative procedures. And part 2, I'm talking about building smart city. The province has approved and implemented a smart city project focusing on 6 pillars: smart education, smart health, smart travel, smart traffic, smart construction, smart environment, and focusing on building smart city in Ha Long. The initial implementation results, Quảng is the first and only province in the country that has built and issued a provincial smart city architecture. Deploying a smart urban lighting system with energy saving bulb. Traffic system is installed, deploy camera system to serve the management, monitoring, coordination, and fight for traffic violence. Pilot the model of IOC, building the SOC, and now I introduce in smart, green, and sustainable infrastructure, as well as a new opportunity in the post-pandemic COVID-19. In terms of telecommunication infrastructure, it's covered 95% of the population. Fiber optics technology covers 100% of the communities on the mainland. Total number of the mobile subscribers accounts for 100 subscribers per 100 people. 80% of mobile broadband subscriber include. And IT infrastructure, IDC is built according to a Tier 3 international standard. One, it built synchronously from the provincial level from communist video conferencing system, builds LCSB connecting the provincial system with the system of the ministries and central branches. And now I talk about the transportation infrastructure. Transport infrastructure of Quảng province has been invested in the construction relatively complete in recent years with the 170 kilometer expressway. The length of the provincial expressway will be 1/10 of the total length of the national highway. And now we have Westin International Airport, allowing to receive the most model aircraft today. International seaports can accommodate 2 ships with a capacity of 6,000 passengers at the same time. Currently implementing the project of bridges and riverside roads effectively promotes the advantages of linking regions in the regions with the locality. Synchronous civilized and model urban infrastructure, green, clean, safe environment, standard wastewater treatment infrastructure towards a smart urban model. And in the part 2, I can also talk about economic zone infrastructure. Móng Cái Border Gate Economic Zone is a gateway connecting ASEAN countries with the Northeast Asia. Westin Quảng Yên Economic Zone with a synchronous and model infrastructure has attracted many large, capable, experienced investors. In addition, the province has also 10 industrial clusters. In part 3, now I talk about plans of future. Connection infrastructure projects plan for the implementation. Now, on the ICT infrastructure, we develop and implement a new project, Quảng Ninh Comprehensive Digital Transformation Project, building an IT park in Ha Long City, continuing to develop ICT infrastructure, smart city and digital transformation, developing broadband network infrastructure, 5G mobile network, popularizing smartphones for people. In terms of industrial cluster, to develop industrial zones into supporting industrial parks with the priority given to attracting projects on automobile production and assembly. IR Seaport Industry Park to be developed in the fashion industry and creative industry, giving priority to attracting modern technology, manufacturing and assembly electronic products, electronic, electrical equipment high-tech industry. London Economic Zone is to develop into center of the entertainment industry, cultural industry with casino, high-class island tourism, international class general services with the economic infrastructure system, developed according to the model of the smart city, focused on attracting and developing a number of industries using high technologies such as nanotechnology, IT, energy technology, and the environment. And the last one, the Mong Cái Border Gate Economic Zone and Quảng Yên Coastal Economic Zone to develop into the dynamic and sustainable economic growth pole as smart and model urban industrial seaport. Thank you for watching. Quảng Ninh has a lot of projects that need to attract investment. But there's a number of projects that I think are suitable for today's topic. About investment attraction projects for investors from Korea. For example, transport and logistics infrastructure projects. In industrial zone, industrial cluster project, the secondary projects in the industrial zone. And build smart cities, especially in the fields of tourism, transport, construction, and digital transformation with a priority given to the fields of tourism, health, education, industrial and energy, transport, natural resources, and environment, agriculture, and construction. Developing ICT infrastructure for smart city and digital information, focusing on developing 4G, 5G networks. The last one, I think, constructing an IT parks in Hello City.
Thank you all the representatives from the Smart Cities project presentations for your valuable time and for joining us through the video. This calls for an end to the 8th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. Hope our viewers gained useful information throughout the project presentations. Have a great evening, and we hope to see you again at the 9th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. 이것으로 웨비나로 개최된 제8차 아세안 연계성 포럼을 마치도록 하겠습니다. 참여해주신 모든 분들께 감사드립니다.